Hi there, this is Diana Lopez from Olivo Verde Coaching, and I am coming to you today to just talk to you a little bit about hydration. So, for people that have not had surgery or have recently had surgery, oftentimes hydration can be really a struggle for them in the beginning. A lot of times I'll see people, they'll realize they need to increase their fluid before surgery. They really get after it and they do really, really well. And so once they have surgery, sometimes they're pretty shocked that they can't get in all the fluid that they could before surgery. Eventually that improves over time and you will be able to get more in, but it can take a while. It can take months for that to happen. So you need to get really creative about ways to get in the fluid you need. Or maybe you're somebody that you're farther out from surgery, been there, done that, you know all about that. You can drink more fluid, or maybe you can't, and it is really just a struggle for you for a multitude of reasons. So we're going to talk about both of those groups of people to give you some tips and ideas. So our minimum goal for fluid is 48 to 64 ounces. If you can get closer to 64 ounces, all the better. So in that fluid, we want it to be calorie-free, caffeine-free liquid. So really look at the labels for the things that you're drinking, and make sure that you're drinking those calorie-free, caffeine-free liquids as a majority of what you're drinking, especially in the beginning, to get in fluid to keep you hydrated. That's our main concern in the beginning, is to keep you hydrated. So you want to make sure you're getting those fluids in. So that could be water. You could add lemon or lime to it. You could do a sugar-free Kool-Aid. You could do a sugar-free lemonade. You could do something like Crystal Light, the little squeezy bottles that you would pour into your water bottle. You can do something like that. You can do the fruit-infused water. Some people like to do fitness water. So like Propel, Powerade, Gatorade, the 0 calories, Vitamin Water Zero. Those are all viable options. And then don't forget things like popsicles, Jello, and broth. All of those things are going to count towards your fluid intake as well. So if you're really struggling, remember those things count too. So as we talk about maybe some things to consider around your fluid intake, I just want to give you some things that I've learned over the years working with people through their struggles with staying hydrated. The biggest one is to start early in the day. So start drinking your fluid early in the day. Don't wait until lunchtime to start drinking. If you have a job where you can't drink in the middle of the day, maybe you're a teacher, maybe you run some sort of equipment and you can't have liquid around you, or you're a nurse, or you're in the operating room, something like that where you can't not have fluids with you, start that early in the day, and then once, when you can during the day, drink, and then finish off the rest of your fluid into the evening time. So that's really the best way, if you have that big gap in the middle of the day, to do that. And the other thing I've seen with people sometimes farther out from surgery is they don't tolerate water really well. I'm not quite sure why that is, but if you're one of those people that really doesn't tolerate water, look for other things that you can drink. Sometimes just having something that almost feels like it has a little bit of weight to it, like a Powerade or Propel or a Gatorade Zero, something like that. Sometimes people can keep down better. They set a little bit better in their stomach. Or Crystal Light, even for some people, is a good option. So that may be where you're trying to get more of your fluids from. And we've already talked about the 64 ounces. We talked about starting early in the day. One of the other things that we have talked about in the past, if you've been anywhere around kind of the universe of weight loss surgery, is we have you separate eating from drinking. And so in the beginning, when I started working with people after surgery, oftentimes we would tell you stop drinking 30 minutes before, and then once you start eating, it should take you 15-20 minutes to eat your meal, because you're eating nice and slow. You're taking a lot of chews and bites with that food, so you're, small bites, lots of chews, and then you're going to wait 30 minutes after the meal before you can drink anything. So some of the science has changed a little bit with that. Now you can actually continue to drink fluids up until the time that you start your meal. Once you start your meal, we want you to take your time eating the meal and then wait 30 minutes after. The reason for that change is that typically it doesn't take us as long to digest liquids as it does solids. especially things like water, our body is just going to get it to the temperature of our body to be able to pass it along and absorb it. So those are the kind of things that, we talked a lot about before, but not so much now. And the reason behind the separation between eating and drinking, there's a couple theories, and science is always evolving and changing, and this may change as well. But one of the theories is that when you eat and drink together, you will expand your stomach. And so when that happens, with the expansion of your stomach happening, you can take in more food at one meal. And I did actually see one study that talked about that when they compared people after weight loss surgery that ate and drank and those that didn't, those that ate and drank together could consume a little bit more food than those that didn't. So that does actually make a difference. The other thing is that when you eat and drink together, it causes the food not to sit long in your stomach. But so when that happens, it gets digested, but then your stomach is empty and you end up being hungry again sooner. So maybe that causes more eating, more snacking. And if you're, maybe you're farther out from surgery and you've kind of gone back to eating and drinking together, that may be a part of the issue for you. So look at that and see how you're doing. The other point for us with fluids is to carry your liquids with you wherever you go. Most of us do that now. We have a cup or we have a water bottle. We tend to carry that around with us to make sure we're sipping all day long. So if you're not doing that, make sure you do that. And take the liquids at the temperature that you like them. If you have a water bottle and it's getting warm, for me, I'm not a big fan of room temperature drink. So if it's really cold, I'm going to drink it a lot faster. If I squeeze a lemon in there, I'm going to drink it a lot faster. So find those little things that work for you. Maybe you're not like me. Maybe your preference is room temperature water. So if that is you, make sure your water is always room temperature, or a certain flavor of drink. Make sure you have that available and handy for you to drink. Our next tip is to make sure that your fluids are decaf. So when you drink caffeinated fluids, they have a tendency to dehydrate us. And so maybe you're drinking regular caffeinated coffee or tea that's caffeinated, and you're finding that maybe you're having headaches when you go to the bathroom. Your pee is pretty concentrated and dark. Maybe you're having some dizziness. Maybe you're feeling really tired or confused. Sometimes those are symptoms of dehydration. So maybe you're not drinking enough. Or maybe you're drinking caffeinated things which are kind of going against the hydration that you're trying to do. So if you're drinking a lot of caffeinated things, start to look for decaf options, or maybe switch over to something totally different that's not caffeinated. So that could be, if you're doing coffee, maybe go to decaf. If you're doing teas, you go to herbal or a decaf tea to help with hydration. And the other thing that we want to talk about with fluids is carbonation. So if you're somebody that tends to drink a lot of carbonated beverages, you might notice that it causes a lot of gas and bloating in your belly. And so what you might want to do is lay off of that. Or if you really are drinking a lot of carbonated, some of the surgeons that I work with, what they'll oftentimes recommending is pouring that carbonated drink into a glass and putting it in the fridge for 30-45 minutes to let some of those bubbles dissipate before you drink it. So if you're drinking carbonated things, that is one way that you can consume those things. For us, our preference really honestly is for you to drink more hydrating things that don't have carbonation, but that really is your choice. So one of the things from when I first started working with weight loss surgery patients to now is straws. In the beginning, we would tell people no straws, but now you can actually use straws again. So for someone that is maybe 6-9 months out from surgery, that might introduce too much air into your stomach and maybe will cause you to have some gas and some bloating. So you might want to wait a little bit longer. But if you're someone that's several years out from surgery and you would drink your water bottle a lot better if you stuck a straw in there, give it a shot. Just take it nice and slow. Make sure it doesn't cause any problems for you. And that may be the key to solving your hydration problem, is just adding that straw into your liquids. The other thing is to read labels. So look at the labels of the fluids that you're drinking. Are you drinking something and maybe, you know, it only has 5 calories, but maybe you're drinking 6 or 7 of those a day, and that's adding up to quite a few calories for you throughout your day with the liquids that you're drinking. So that may be something that you really want to take a look at and see. Maybe you can make some adjustments. Maybe you back that down and drink some other fluid. And then the other thing too is if you're drinking a lot of sports drinks, so you know, things that they're really made for people as a replenishment, rehydration, electrolyte, to fix electrolyte imbalances after heavy sweating or long periods of time doing a lot of heavy exercise or activity, they actually have more salt in them. So if you're somebody that has high blood pressure, if you notice that maybe you're seeming to have more swelling in your legs and feet, or you feel more bloated, or maybe your weight loss has stopped or slowed down and you are going at a pretty good clip, look at those drinks. If you're drinking those hydration electrolyte sports drinks, they've got a good bit of sodium. So if that's all your hydration all day long, maybe cut it in half or get that out of your fluid intake. I know I have worked with several people that went to drinking some of those sports drinks, and they found that they were at the end of kind of that first year and their weight loss was still happening, but they added those drinks in and their weight loss stopped, or maybe they gained a little bit of fluid weight. So if you're drinking a lot of those things, try to back off of it or take it out of your hydration plan, and you may find that weight loss starts up for you again because you're holding a little bit of extra fluid. Last thing that we'll talk about is tracking, which whenever we talk about protein, when we talk about macronutrients, when we talk about carbs, when we talk about anything food related, I'm always encouraging you to track. And so you don't have to track things forever, but I think as long as you're having problems with something, then it's really helpful to track those things to see how maybe you can make adjustments to that. So if you're already using an app where you are tracking your food intake, you can track in there. There are several apps out there. If you get in your app store and kind of search around water tracking, fluid tracking, you'll find several out there that will help you track your fluid intakes. And you can also, through that app, set alarms. And you can even just do that on your phone to set alarms or reminders to go off every so often to remind you to drink if that's something that you're really struggling with. So, you know, track that to see how you're doing. I have some people that don't like apps, and so they maybe drink water bottles, and so what they'll do is on their desk at work or in a little, maybe they've got a little container that they leave, you know, where they typically are sitting. As they drink their water bottles, they'll save the caps or they'll save the labels from the water bottles so they can look back at the end of the day and see how many water bottles they've drank according to how many caps or how many labels they've got in their little container or sitting on their desk. So that's another way that you can keep track of your fluid. And then last, we talked about it before, but remember things like broth, popsicles, and sugar-free Jell-O are going to count towards your fluid intake. So if you're getting tired of the same old, or you're like me, you're in a hotter climate, that might be a place where maybe you are adding in popsicles or Jell-O. Or if you're in a cooler climate, maybe you're more intentional about drinking broth or drinking hot tea. I hope all of those ideas for fluid intake help you. Let me know down below, what's your number one struggle with hydration? What are some tips that you would give someone else that struggled the way that maybe you were struggling before? So we want to be an interactive community where we are talking and sharing and learning from each other. And I just value so much each of you, your journey and your wisdom, the things that you've learned throughout your journey. And I love to see it when you guys are sharing what you're learning and encouraging and helping each other. So I hope this video helped you, and I'll see you soon. Take care.